generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about the new movie Kraven the Hunter. If you are not aware of what this movie is, this is a movie that's in like the Spider-Man genre of Marvel. He is a villain that is in the Spider-Man universe, and he's known for hunting. Before going into this movie, what my understanding of who Kraven was is that he was this very popular hunter, and he's always looking for the next big game. He wants to have all the coolest trophies up on his wall of the kills that he has done. And so that's kind of that's partially what my expectation was going to be here, where maybe we get a little taste of that. Um, but did we? We'll have to find out soon. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our thoughts about the movie without spoilers, and then we're going to give it a rating, and then talk about what happened in the movie a little bit. So, uh, again, I just kind of gave what my thoughts of who I thought Craven was before seeing this movie. Where I've seen Craven is Spider-Man 2, the video game, the most recent one for PS5. He does play a big role in that game. And then I've also seen him in some of the like TV show animated shows. I don't think I do think that this was his live action premiere. I don't think he was in the Sam Raimi trilogy. I don't think he was in The Amazing Spider-Man, and I don't think he was in um uh his name is escaping me. Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I don't think he's in any of those either. So uh let's see. What are my non-spoiler opinions? Well, I was hopeful for this movie. I thought it was going to be pretty cool, but there's a lot of things in this movie that bug me. And one of them being, I honestly think that the creators think us as an audience could be stupid. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many editing things in here that were very, very bad. Like right in the very beginning of the movie, there was this scene of this elderly woman and a child talking, okay? And they were talking, and the camera was, doing different angles and whatnot, and it eventually did this angle where it was kind of, I think it was zooming out, but they were like the center of attention of the shot. And the elderly woman was talking, like you could hear her talking, but her mouth was completely closed. And so things like that, where they have shots that are made, but then they dub over what's happening. And that one was really inexcusable. But then there were things later on too, where you know, things didn't match their mouth. There was a scene, and I'm pretty sure this shot is in the trailer. There's a shot where like Craven is beating someone to a pulp on the ground, and then in the movie he picks him up to ask him a question. And I was watching because I was very aware of this crap that was happening earlier on in the movie, and his jaw never moves, but yet there's a lot of talking that happens when he's asking this question. And so stuff like that really bothered me where the editing was awful. Uh, let's see. Some of the CGI wasn't my favorite, especially when he was scaling walls. I feel like Spider-Man has done it way, way better, which is crazy to me because Sony has done their own Spider-Man films, and those look way better than what we got here. And then also, I think it's a decent movie. but at the same time, it's not exactly what I thought we were gonna get because I feel like this was kind of the opposite of what I thought Kraven was. But we'll probably talk more about that in the spoilers. So it's entertaining, but I think I would wait for streaming. What'd you think?
I feel like you almost said there was nothing that you liked. Like I heard you say it was entertaining, but like what did you even like about it?
Some of the action was pretty cool. I felt like the movie, like the pace of the movie was pretty well done. I liked, I liked the Rhino character. We do see that in the previews. I like the Rhino character. I guess I wouldn't say structurally because I feel like that would bleed into editing, but um, there were some good story elements here that happened. We can see from the trailer that we kind of explore when he was a kid and there was the attack with the lion and stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there that I thought was good, and I enjoyed seeing, how he became what he is. But still, I felt like that was an origin story of what this movie is trying to paint him as he is, whereas what I have understood him to be was completely different. So for what it is, I think it was good, but at the same time, there was a lot of things that were not working. I think you even said it on the ride home. There was like things that were really good, and then there were things that were really bad, and it's just we could have just had a nice, even if the script was horrible, we could have at least had a clean movie, and I feel like we didn't even get that.
Yeah, it's making me really struggle with how to score the film because I did enjoy the bulk of it, but there were some spots where the chemistry between certain characters, like their acting in a there's a specific scene where the chemistry just isn't there, and the acting or the delivery of the lines seems really stale. It doesn't seem very believable. And something like that, like it's almost like they took the first take. Okay, good enough. Like, let's go.
Exactly.
And I feel like they, to Jeremy's point, almost kind of treat the audience like they're stupid, I guess. I don't know that I go quite that far to say that, but like something like that scene, as an editor, you should see that and be like, let's do that again. Like that didn't look uh natural.
Right. I mean,
Um,
we have seen way too many movies over the last year, and I feel like the more and more that we see them and the more and more that we digest what's happening on the screen, we probably are picking up that stuff more than probably the average person going to the movie theater and seeing like maybe a movie a month or even less. So I feel like that might have something to do with it. But at
yeah.
the same time, we're also, people that make YouTube videos. So we also look for those things when we're doing editing, like what makes a good edit, at least, at my amateurish ability of editing. I try to make it look nice, but like I feel like it's insulting to have something on screen where someone's talking and their mouth isn't even open. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and with the dialogue too, I feel like a lot of the time we spent too much time looking at the person who was listening and not enough time looking at the person who was talking. And so it didn't really give their words very much power because they weren't able to deliver any like major monologues,
Which
or
just
even minor monologues.
which makes me wonder if it makes me wonder if the script wasn't quite ready in a way, like maybe the lines that they wrote, they weren't too sure. They wanted to see how it would, what would it look like on a finished product. And so they like watched a draft of the movie with all this and they just made sure characters weren't facing the camera, so if they needed to change it, they could. And it makes me wonder if that's why they did that so much. 'Cause it was a lot.
Could be. Um, I think there were some really strong parts. There were some really good action sequences. When he was doing his thing, he was doing great. But then there was a lot of times where there wasn't as much action. Like I was expecting this for the bulk of the movie, and I don't know that we really got that for the bulk of the movie. I almost feel like I don't remember what movie I've said this about recently, but I feel like I have said it about a somewhat recent movie. I almost feel like we got an origin story before the actual action story. And Jeremy, I know you said that you know Kraven from these other things, but I didn't really. The more you talk about it with the Spider-Man game, it kind of jogged my memory a little bit, but I didn't play that game. I just watched you play from time to time, so I don't really know who he is. So I was just going off the trailer of like this cool hunter dude, and I feel like he we didn't get to see that for as much of the film as I would have liked.
Yeah, I mean, he did a couple of things that were hunting or tracking-ish throughout the film. He's got like this weird animal eye sense thing where he can see really, really far away or
That was really
um,
cool.
pick up on things. And so he was able to do some like, you know, like how dogs have a hyper sense of smell, all which was hilarious in the movie theater. So I do want to share this funny story real quick. So there's a scene, and this is not a spoiler, it's just something that happens casually. And so he's going to this restaurant with his brother. I think it's his brother's birthday or something. And he walks in the front door, and this couple is leaving as they're walking in. And Craven says to the girl, um, "Man, you smell nice." And she's like, "Oh, I'm actually not wearing anything." And so
He says I like your perfume.
yeah, so then what I thought was what was going on here. What I first thought was that he was thinking like her body odor like smelled really good, like maybe it was kind of like a sexy playoff thing happening right there. But what was hilarious was that he says to the other guy like she's gonna find out, and the guy next to me goes, "What a dick!" in the movie theater, and I thought that was so funny. But um yeah. So there were some small, good, funny scenes like that. I feel like I wanted a little bit more. Like there is this. I feel like if you're gonna have stuff like that, you should be willing to go for it. Like there was a scene where someone was dead, hanging from a door, and I was expecting him to say like, "Hang in there," or
How's
"How's
it
it
hanging?
hanging?" Just something, just because that's how some of these other jokes were really feeling in a way. So I was hoping
Yeah,
for a little more of that once I was seeing what was happening because he does have some good humor, just not enough, I think.
yeah.
So let's roll into some ratings. For me, it was kind of so it was interesting because I was thinking about this throughout the movie. Like, what would I give this movie? Because in the beginning, I was feeling really good about it, and I was wondering, like, because I heard the critics didn't like it. And so I was like, okay, what aren't they liking? I mean, at this point we had seen one editing issue with the old elderly woman and the kid. But at the same time, I was engaged with it. I was digging it. It was good in my opinion. And then it like dipped and then it went up a little bit and it dipped again and I don't know. I felt like my rating changed a lot during this movie.
It's a hard one to rate because, like I was saying, when it was good, it was really good, but there were so many low points at the same time.
I think, and unfortunately, this people might call this a little biased, but I think what I'm gonna have to go with is a four because I think this movie should have been more aligned with what I think Craven is supposed to be. Now, that's not to say that after this movie he kind of turns into that person, but right now, based on this movie, I feel like they kind of did the Venom thing with him where I believe Venom is more of a villain character, but his movies, he's definitely more of a hero. And I kind of feel like that's what happened here with Kraven, and I don't like that they're doing that too much. Like I feel like it kind of worked for Venom. You know, he it was comedic and he was trying to be a good person. But with this movie, I don't really quite want that. So I think this movie is slightly below average for what it was, in my opinion, supposed to accomplish. But like I said, if you want to see this, I would recommend streaming it at least. But that's where I'm at. 4 out of 10, slightly below average.
I feel like story-wise, things are a little too coincidental for his origin, and we'll get more into that in spoilers, but
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about what's going on with the story because it felt like it almost felt like three separate books in one movie. And yeah, we can talk about that in a minute.
so yeah, story-wise, it seemed like things were a little too coincidental sometimes. Overall, I thought it was enjoyable though, and I did like the bulk of it. And so that was making me lean towards a six, but there was so much editing stuff that was just annoying that I think I'm gonna have to settle at a five. I'm gonna overall average it out to be an average film. It's a five for me.
Before we get into the spoilers, one question I will ask you because I don't know how much we can really take from this statement that Sony said. It might be a grain of salt, but supposedly they're done with these movies. Like Craven is the end of, you know, the Craven, Madam Web, Venom. Was there another one that they did? See, there's supposed to be six movies. That's only five. Is there one more?
Morbius.
Morbius, thank you. So those six movies are going to be like the end of the road for what their this little experiment was, which I don't fully believe. But out of those six movies, where do you think you'd kind of put this movie?
Um, well, unlike the mass public, I actually liked Morbius. But we also didn't see it in theater. We didn't have all that hype behind it. M Madam Web is definitely at the bottom of the list for me. That one was atrocious. I feel like this is maybe in like sec I don't remember all the ones you listed, but it's somewhere below Venom and maybe around in line with Morbius just because I don't it's been too long since we've seen it. I don't really remember how that one shakes out from like an editing standpoint and all that stuff. So somewhere around there-ish. I
Don't
don't know.
forget,
Kind of kind of
we
kind of
got the
average on the scale.
we got the weird, sexy dancing scene from your Doctor Who guy in that movie, Damien from House of the Dragon. Uh, I think I would put it at number three out of all those. My number one from those six movies, I think, is the Let There Be Carnage. I really enjoyed that one. And then Venom is number two, and then this is number three for me. But yeah, let's talk about some spoilers. So I just mentioned a second ago that this movie felt very much like three separate books, and here's what they are. Craven as a kid. What's Craven even up to? That's book two. And then book three is like something happens with his brother, and then he goes to save him, and that's the three chunks of the movie. Um, there is one or two things that are overarching for the whole movie, but that's basically the progression of Craven's character. So the beginning of the movie, we see him. He infiltrates a Russian prison and kills somebody in there, and he kind of that's when we first get the little idea that he's hunting people instead of animals. And then as he's flying away from this job, we get his flashback of his childhood and how he actually became Kraven the Hunter. His dad is a hardball, essentially, played by Russell Crowe, and he's very much the be a man type person. And, you know, you have to be at the top, you can't show weakness. And so he's trying to raise his two boys, which one of them is Kraven or Sergey, and then the other one's name was Dmitri. Uh, from what I understand, Sergey is his biological son, like meant to happen son, and then Dmitri was a whoopsie child. And so the reason why that's important to understand is because Russell Crowe's character, which what's his name? That way I don't have to keep calling him Russell Crowe. Nikolai. So Nikolai,
Just call
what's
him
important?
Papa.
Okay, Papa Crow. Um,
That's what they called him in the movie over and over was Papa.
the reason why it's important to understand that is because he definitely favors Sergei over Dmitri. Dmitri is just kind of like his own free-spirited person. Nikolai is expecting him to just go to America, get an education in New York, and, just be a rich business guy, essentially. Whereas Sergei or Kraven is supposed to stay with Nikolai, learn the ways of his business, and then, pass the business on once Nikolai passes. So they go out for a hunt, you know, Sergei or Kraven. He's supposed to, kill. They're going out there to learn how to hunt, and he gets approached by this huge lion, and we see it in the trailer. And we see him have his gun raised up to it. In the trailer, you hear a gunshot, but you don't know who did it, and you just know that the lion attacks Craven. In the movie, we find out that it's Nikolai that shot at the lion. Before that shot happens, Sergei and or Craven and the lion are kind of having this connection. They're looking at each other, and it's almost like they're having a mutual respect for each other. And then Nikolai fires his gun at the lion. The lion's huge, right? It would be a crazy thing to have up on your wall as a trophy. And so he shoots the lion, and that's what triggers the lion to, forget this moment we just had. I'm going to attack you. And we see in the preview that the lion attacks Craven. He gets jacked up. The lion from his gunshot wound has blood drip down into Craven's body, so now he's kind of one with the animals. But the other important part here is when I was talking about that elderly woman and the child's name is Calypso, and she was out with her parents on like a safari taking pictures, and she saw Craven in the bushes with the lion, and when the lion left, she poured some of this like mystical drink into Craven's mouth, and it's what saved his life. And so Craven, from this point on, he kind of takes it upon himself to hunt down the like poachers essentially. And uh, he doesn't necessarily hunt beasts like I thought he would. Again, that could happen later on in a movie, but who knows? Um, is there anything else that you think we should really hit on with his childhood here?
No.
Okay, so that's essentially his childhood. We do cut back to present day, and he being Craven, he has a list of all these people that he's trying to hunt down and kill. Basically, a hit list. And so that's going on in the middle of the movie. There's not a whole lot else to really pay attention to. The overarching story that I mentioned before, one of Nikolai's crew members was disrespected by Nikolai, and he basically dedicated his life to get back at Nikolai. So he's kind of got this thing going on in the background. He is who Rhino is. Even his license plate said Rhino. And the reason why he is the Rhino is because he decided to go to New York and be a test subject for some stuff. And the reaction that he had is that he gets really, really tough skin. He grows a horn. He looks like a rhino, so that's why he calls himself the Rhino. Uh, he's also trying to hire all these random people to get back and hunt down Nikolai and his family. Um, but ultimately, that's what's going on there. So, uh, do you want to talk about what happens in the last third of the movie when the brother is kidnapped?
Yeah, so it's all kind of a big merry-go-round of who's pulling the strings, right? Because you've got Rhino who knows he's on this list and wants to hunt Kraven because he doesn't want, it's kill or be killed. So if I can kill Kraven, then he can't kill me. And he, I think, was trying to capture Kraven, but instead captured his brother and decided to use him as bait.
Yep.
And so that makes Kraven want to go save him, right? Because Kraven doesn't have any weaknesses, but someone that you love, that's always a classic weakness. So why not go with that? Um, we've got a lot of back and forth chase sequences, explosions, fights. He meaning Kraven kind of teams up with Calypso again because now she's he finds her and she's this big lawyer lady who is good at tracking down people, kind of like he is, except she's more on a like a lawyer type side, whereas he's more of like an actual hunter type side.
So I thought was
Um,
kind of interesting. Like, he all the way up until this point where and when he works with her, he's saying that I'm a hunter and he seems to be a very, very good one, but yet he needs the help from a lawyer that, has addresses and stuff. I thought that was kind of weird.
yeah, I mean, if he's able to track her down, I don't know why he really needs her to track anybody else down. It seems like he could do that himself.
Yeah. Anyways,
So yeah, I'm not really sure why she's. Oh, I know why she's still here because we need her later, right? And we'll get to that in a second. So he needs her help, quote unquote, so that way she can be part of the film. We've also got another bad guy called the Foreigner. So we see he's called that because nobody knows where he's from, I guess. But he's got this weird like time travel type thing that he can do when he takes off his glasses where he counts to three and whatever he does in those like 3 seconds, it happens in like an instant for everybody else. So he can count to three. By the time he's done counting, he's taking your gun and now he's shooting you. And all you see is just it's like you blink your eyes and he's shooting you with your own gun. Right. So that was kind of cool. I liked that character.
thought it was okay.
But we've kind of got a who's who, right? Like who's gonna kill who first? Everybody's after each other. Everybody's after Kraven. It's Kraven against everybody. I don't know how much of the nitty-gritty details we really need, except that at one point, Kraven seems like he's down and out because the foreigner is just kicking his butt because he gave him some weird um, hypnosis type
Very.
uh, drugs. It's different than the berries. It's something else. But anyway, the berries is something that Craven used to kill other people with like a blow dart. But so the foreigner like drugged him with these weird darts, and so he was hallucinating and stuff, and that basically made him not mentally aware of what was going on. So he borderline dies. And this is why Calypso's still around, right? Is because she happens to have more of that vial of medicine that makes him come back to life. I almost kind of wonder if that's the reason why he needed her help in the first place, is just so she'd be around to cure him later.
You got that sip sip.
Kind of like plot armor, I guess. But anyway, so since she's around, thank goodness, she also is able to kill the foreigner because she shoots him with a crossbow and he doesn't see it coming because he's too focused on Craven. Um, So he's still trying to save his brother, and we finally get that like major boss fight with Rhino where he goes this like, okay, this is my official final form because he's been suppressing it the whole rest of the movie. So he finally lets loose. We get to see him with his horns and everything, and we get a good fight with him and Kraven.
Well, let's not forget. I mean, this is like like you said, this is the final big set piece of the movie, and I don't. Oh yeah, it was earlier on. when Kraven was young. He didn't know what was happening. He heard a loud noise, and a stampede comes through, and he like tries to cower and hopefully he doesn't get hit, and he makes eye contact with one of the animals in the stampede. And so here at the end, he actually comes in with the stampede to try to save his brother and attack these the vehicles that they're trying to get away on.
You think he was controlling the stampede?
I wouldn't say control, but I would say that he might have contacted.
Oh, I guess I didn't quite get that. It looked like a coincidence to me. Um, but yeah, so did you want to describe the fight at all? Is there anything noteworthy that you thought was really cool?
Um, well, people may be wondering how does he actually get the upper hand on Rhino because Rhino is pretty darn strong. Throughout the whole movie, basically, if Rhino, he's kind of like on this time schedule of this medicine that he's taking. So, like
It's
if
like
you're
through an
taking your
IV in his gut.
yeah, so like if you need ibuprofen or something and you're going around the clock at 6 hours or whatever it is, that's kind of like what's going on here. Once that 6th hour comes around, he's got to hook up a new bag, and there's like this um medicine that stops him from transforming into the rhino. He does mention why he doesn't want to do that, like why he doesn't want to be the rhino 24/7, because he says it hurts. And so he would rather be hooked up to that medicine and be human as opposed to being this beast. But with Kraven being here, he wants to just demolish Kraven. So he decides to not take his medicine and then he just, turns into full-on Rhino. But that that little hole in his side, that's what makes him, weak against Kraven because Kraven sees the little hole and like stabs him in there. And once he realizes that's the weak spot, then he takes advantage of it. And so that's kind of how he gets the upper hand on Rhino. The other
I
thing
was
I thought was,
surprised he didn't like stab him in the eye or something.
yeah, he could have tried.
But I guess it'd be two eyeball deaths in a row, so that would be very fun.
The other thing I thought was interesting about the fight is that some of the things that I remember being in the video game that were effective against Rhino happened here too. So, Rhino's charge, right? And in the video game, the way that you take him out is that you basically do a Toro Toro situation, and then he charges at you, you jump out of the way, and then he hits something, and that's what rattles his mind a little bit, and then you pummel him. That happened here too. Craven basically jumps out of the way at the last minute, and Rhino rams into a vehicle, which stuns him for a second, and then Craven takes advantage of that. So it was kind of cool to see some of those what I would say are nods to um, the way in the past that Rhino has been susceptible. But other than that, there's
Hey,
not. I don't think there's anything too crazy that's noteworthy from the fight. Rhino does, from what I understand, Rhino dies.
I
Um,
think so. I'm gonna jump back a little bit here because there's something we forgot to mention. Before any of this big fight, right? Craven is asking Calypso, "Yeah, hey, you got any more of that medicine?" What does she say about her grandma, Jeremy?
oh yeah, she said, "Well, my grandma died, and then I didn't hear much from her after," or something like that.
I haven't seen her since.
Yeah, it's like, well, the only time you would see her is if you visited her grave, her ashes, or however that would happen. No dip. So that kind of tells you what kind of dialogue they have in the movie. They didn't even think of that.
It was so awkward at that point.
I'm pretty sure I leaned over to you and I was like, "What?"
Uh,
So, yeah. But okay, so there's a little bit more here at the tail. There isn't an after credit scene, but there is something at the end of the movie that does kind of set up what could happen next, even though the makers of it have said that there won't be a next one, but there's a chance. And
well,
that is,
let's start with what happens to Dad first.
Yep. So Kraven goes back to visit his dad, Russell Crowe, Nikolai, and he's out hunting. He's living in a tent. He's got a whole bunch of guns and he's hunting. They have a little conversation, but we as the audience, we know that Kraven does not like his dad one bit. He doesn't agree with what he does.
Well,
And
this is where we find out that remember I said it's kind of a who's who, who's tricking who and all that.
yeah, we find out
So
Nikolai actually set up Kraven.
yeah, so he knew that Rhino wanted to take him out because that way he could be the crime lord. But he knew that he also wasn't strong enough to take him out himself, so he wanted Kraven to take him out. But if he asked Kraven to take him out, he knew he wouldn't do that because he hates him. So that's why he kind of used the brother as bait because he knew that Kraven would want to save him. So the only way to do that would be to leak the footage to Rhino so that he knew who Kraven was.
The footage of when he was in the Russian prison
Yes, thank you.
security camera. But from this, Kraven's got this weird, like Ahsoka from Star Wars. He can connect with uh, beasts essentially. And so as Kraven's walking away from Nikolai, a big bear shows up and just annihilates him. And so Nikolai is definitely dead. Kraven goes back to kick it with his brother a little bit. His brother sings at the restaurant, and so he meets him there. And
The
this is,
singing, sorry, I want to touch on this a sec. There's a handful of scenes of the brother singing in a club, which is fine, except that whenever he would stop singing to like go hang out with his family or whatever, you would think any normal club like that, you'd finish the song, it'd have a natural ending to the song, and then you'd be like, okay, thanks, I'll be back later or something. It almost seemed like he was stopping in the middle of a song and then just going to talk to whoever like for fun, like off on the side. The songs didn't seem to have a normal ending. It was very weird and choppy.
yeah, he seemed to like cut the band off whenever um he was ready to be done. It was kind of weird, I would
But
say.
the band was just him on his piano.
Well, at the end, he was just singing with the mic, I thought.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. But the other scenes, it was just him on his piano.
Yeah. But he goes back to meet his brother, Craven going back to meet with Dimitri. And this is kind of like the 180 with his brother, because his brother is now kind of like saying to Craven, well, even though Dad's dead, you're basically becoming him. And he honestly, he sounds too big for his britches, in my opinion. Like he sounds like a little whiny kid. But this really took Craven off guard, and I feel like Craven was thinking more like, what's wrong with my brother, as opposed to listening to the insults that his brother was saying. And so they go to leave the restaurant, and, Craven's following him, trying to reason with him, find out why is he talking this way. And
Well, it's just
Dimitri,
like he's taking over the family business, which is not at all what he wanted to do before.
right. Like he has people working for him in that restaurant that Craven's like, what the heck? Why are these people here? Because that's who they were, grieving with. But uh, Dimitri mentions that he went and saw a doctor in New York, and he's got like this weird thing about him, and we find out because he's been called the chameleon this whole movie, like just because he's very good at voice acting, he's impersonating his dad a lot, and here we see him actually like changing into different people. And so I think they're setting him up to be some other. It doesn't make sense to me if they're saying this is the end of these movies, it doesn't make sense to introduce him the way that they did. So I think there's going to be more movies coming out with these characters. It wouldn't make any sense. But anyways, so we find out that Dimitri is the chameleon. He can change what he looks like, how he talks, all that stuff. And then there's one last thing. He tells uh, Kraven that their dad left him something after his passing, which is very, very weird. It doesn't make any sense how the heck he was hunting and then left something for him.
A handwritten letter, no less.
The only thing I could think of is that he knew somebody would try to attack him at his house, and so he just left and was going to be one with nature or something with his tent. But that could even be a stretch. But the thing that was left behind was the lion that, tried to kill Kraven in the very beginning. He used his mane to make the what I would call the staple of Kraven's look, his jacket with the lion mane. It's the picture from our thumbnail. And to end the movie, he sits in the chair, does his pose, just like what's here in the thumbnail, and then the movie cuts. And so that's why I kind of think after this movie might be where we'd get more of what I think Craven is, because, you know, Dimitri had been telling him, you're becoming what Dad was. You're going to be this evil guy. And maybe that's what kind of pushes him over the edge to become this, like even with the jacket. Because early on in the movie, he was very upset that his dad killed that lion and got the head. Because after he healed up at the hospital from being attacked by the lion, he came back home and Nikolai was like, I got something for you, and shows the head on the wall, and Craven was pissed. So now he has that jacket with that lion's mane, and something's changed in him. I don't think he would still keep that if he felt that way, but I don't know. Just spitballing here, trying to make myself sleep tonight, with all the different things that I think are different. But
You know what I think Sony's issue is with these movies?
the fact that they have to put one out every year and they don't have time to make it good.
Oh, it's not one. Madam Web, Venom, and Kraven all came out this year.
Oh wow, you are right. Dang. They said, here's the
That-
last dump of movies. We're gonna be because I think next year they're gonna have a movie that will do well. The Spider-Verse movie. People actually like those, right? We like them.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I all of these films had a very strong opportunity to be great, but there was something that killed it, and I don't know what it was. Madam Web, that was just a total reverse of what the movie was supposed to be. That was a catfish of the
Yeah, it
trailer.
was.
Venom, that one was okay, but there was just some fundamental issues that could have made it a lot better. And then this one, honestly, if the editing had been better and a little bit more chemistry between the characters, I think that would have taken it a long way. Especially the editing.
Yeah, the editing was a big, big issue, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I would like to see a sequel if they put him more down the villain road, but I don't know if we're gonna get that. Something tells me they lost their butts on these movies this year.
I just,
Except for Venom. Venom did very well overseas.
yeah, I don't know why they can't go full-fledged villain.
I don't know. That'd be really cool. Like, what if we got a whole movie about Green Goblin just tearing it up? That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I don't want to ramble too long with this, but you know, there's some really good villains out there where it's like, this dude kind of makes sense. I understand where they're coming from. And if we could get like a movie where we see themselves as the hero and they're fighting the actual hero, it would be interesting to get that different point of view. I think that would probably be like a test movie to see how that kind of formula would work, but I think it'd be cool. Like, what if we had, a movie about Kraven and, he's fighting with Spider-Man and, you know, we understand why he doesn't like Spider-Man and why he's fighting with him and why he sees Spider-Man as a villain. But us as the audience know that Spider-Man is a hero. So there's this weird dynamic as an audience member being like, oh my God, what are these feelings that I'm feeling kind of a thing. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. Any other thoughts for Kraven?
Oh, let's wrap it up.
Okay, so if you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are looking forward to Mufasa and Sonic 3 next this upcoming week. Yeah, I think that's next week. So we will be seeing those and getting some videos out on those. I'm hoping they're way more positive than this one. Drops a like if you like the video and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on Kraven. And do you think there will be more even though Sony says they are done? And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.